Hi folks, welcome back. This is Recently Seen Reading and I'm Heather. It's been a middling week so far for reading for me and things look like they're heading in the right direction on that front for me. I'm glad to be getting back to more sustained reading. The other thing that's incredibly happy making is that we've gone 8 or 9 days now without any new COVID-19 cases. A couple of cases still active and in the hospital, but new diagnoses have dropped to that magic number. So that means things around me are starting to return to normal-ish. Not normal, but normal-ish. The two things that were incredibly happy making for me was a trip to the dentist. I hate going to the dentist, as most people do, I suppose. But I was able to get a tooth repaired that I'd broken during self-isolation, and that was incredibly happy making despite the inherent difficulties of dental work. And my local branch of the library is now doing curbside delivery, so sometime today or tomorrow, when it's going to be blazing hot and blazingly humid here, I will be able to go and pick up new books from the library for the first time in 3 months, I guess. So that's amazing. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. All these tiny little things make a huge difference in day-to-day routines and happiness levels, I guess. So what about the reading? What have I been doing in reading? One of the things I talked about in one of my recent videos was my interest in Dorothy B. Porter, later Dorothy Porter Wesley, who was a librarian who worked at Howard University and was responsible for both challenging the cataloging of Black materials at the time and building an amazing collection at Howard of material related to the African and Black experience in North America and across the world. I've been able to borrow a electronic copy of a short history of Porter's life written by Dr. Janet Sims Wood. This is kind of a short, quickish read. It's about, not quite 100 pages, and it's largely an account of Porter's professional life and focuses on the collections at Howard and doesn't work as much with her personal life. The account itself is in places a little uneven and a little kind of not as much depth as I'd like, but I think that's largely the result of the kinds of material that Sims Wood had access to. She was working with the papers held at Yale, and when she was using them, the papers were in a state that archivists would call unprocessed, means they were divided up into boxes, maybe somewhere around 200 boxes in the end, but no one had gone through them. They hadn't been organized or reorganized in any way, or no detailed inventory was available. So that's a huge hindrance to someone trying to write a biography. You need a lot of time with unprocessed papers to make headway with them, and my sense is that Sims Wood just didn't get that time with the papers. But she did a great job with what she had, and I think there's an excellent opportunity for someone to write a biography, whether it's a biography of Porter herself or a biography, maybe a collective biography that would look at Porter's network of people that she was in correspondence with. She was connected to lots and lots of people within the Black intelligentsia of the period and did amazing things to collect materials and to provide information and materials to scholars. She was a smart, clever, cagey, strategic collector of materials. It's a shame in part that her own personal papers and collections were divided up. This happened after her death. She had essentially her collection of papers, her first husband's collections of material related primarily to his work in art history, and her second husband's papers related primarily to his work in history. These papers were eventually divided up into separate lots and went into separate institutional homes. And that's a shame. If you're interested in how materials move from family hands into institutional hands, you might be interested in a book I came across recently after hearing the author speak. What's the title of it? Amy Hildreth Chen's Placing Papers, the American Literary Archives Market. Interesting accounts of how families make decisions to sell materials, how institutions vie with each other to purchase them, the economics of the market. I'm looking forward to being able to read that full book once it makes its way to my local university libraries. I heard Chen speak recently, and if I can track down the video, I'll link it down below. So Porter is an amazing person, and it's a shame there isn't a full-length biography for people to read, and I'm going to keep my eye out for that time when some person does turn to Porter and examines her life in more detail. I think probably a network analysis type study that considers how Porter was related to the people she knew, like Langston Hughes and Anne Locke and Zora Neale Hurston, all of those people she was connected to. Would be incredibly fascinating to read. Difficult to do, but I think would be an amazing project for someone to take on. What else have I been reading? I finished this one. This is Saidiya Hartman's Scenes of Subjection, Terror, Slavery, and the Self-Making, can't read it without glasses on, Scenes of Subjection, Terror, Slavery, and Self-Making in 19th Century America. So I found this one hard going, but interesting. Lots of stuff that made me want to put little flags in. I still need to take my notes from the book. Her prose is intricate, multi-clause sentences, and it explores complex ideas. And I struggled with it, which was frustrating because I didn't expect myself to struggle with it so much. And I got to a chapter in the book where she's talking about conduct manuals, essentially mid-19th century conduct manuals post-emancipation, which were written to describe appropriate conduct for the newly freed. And I've read lots and lots of 18th century conduct manuals. And so I found myself kind of on familiar ground, understand how conduct manuals work, and so it was easier for me to follow her argument. So it became stunningly obvious to me that part of what I've been struggling with in the rest of her book, despite the fact that I find it interesting and having interesting things to say, is that I don't have a solid enough foundation underneath me. I don't have as good a grasp of the intricacies of 19th century US history, so that parts of the context, large parts of the context for her argument were missing. It's a little humbling to realize this, but useful to be reminded that sometimes we struggle with what we read because we're not the right reader yet. We don't understand the context that the book is addressing. So I'm glad I read this Hartman. I'm planning on getting my hands on her second book, which is called Lose Your Mother, A Journey Along the Atlantic Slave Route, which I hope to get once interlibrary loans pick up again. That's probably several months out. In it, Hartman, I think, looks at the Ghanaian role in the slave trade, so that, I think, would be an interesting counterpoint to a novel I read a couple of years ago, I guess now, Homegoing. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm going to be a bit patient with myself in reading Hartman's materials, that I need to have a better understanding that sometimes the problem is that I don't know enough about the background material that she's working with. She's a challenging writer, probably not something that a casual reader would want to pick up and read through, but I think it repays the attention you pay to it. What else have I been reading? I'm about halfway through this one. Don't Look at Me Like That, Diane Attill's novel. It was a shorty, maybe 200 pages, published in 1967, set in the 1950s, and it's the account of Meg and her friend, much posher friend, Roxanne, as they move through girlhood into womanhood, and there's a romantic triangle with Roxanne's husband. I'm enjoying this one. It's reminding me in its prose style and the things it's interested in a little bit of Muriel Spark. So I'm about halfway on this one and should finish that this week. What else am I reading? I've started this one. Oh, much clearer. This is Omeros by Derek Walcott. He's a St. Lucian writer, so I picked this up as part of Caribathon. He's a poet. It's been dead a couple of years now. This is an epic poem published in 1992, but I've not read it before, so I've started on that and enjoying it so far. And then next up for me, I think, will be probably the first new book we've purchased since going into self-isolation, essentially, which is this, Emily St. John Mandel's The Glass Hotel. Don't know much about it, but I'm keen to read it, and happy to have a new book. With all the other things going back to their usual practices, maybe some book buying will go back to usual practices as well. And I think that's it for me today. I hope you've had a good week and that you take good care of yourself and good care of your kin. Bye-bye.